Hello everyone, we're going to be taking a look at the newest update here in this video. We're going to be getting new things related to keels, we're going to be getting ammo and pivots, as well as some other fixes, so we're going to dive into that, but first, we're going to take a look at the update notes. This disclaimer has become a part of the humor, but at this point, I know you know how to read, but I'm going to be reading this anyway, and we're going to go through it together step by step. So it says they've added new machine gun ammo boxes with 400 round capacity. So if you have the Search and Destroy DLC, you will be able to have longer fire for your machine gun. Then they went ahead and added new pivots allowing pass fluid and torque. This is really useful for all kinds of situations where previously we had a velocity pivot and that's it. You'd have to have the standard rotational pivot. Now we got something else, so that's going to be adding a bunch of new stuff. This is awesome too. Keels now have a power slider to help sailboat creators better tune their creations. I know that the keels are kind of like overpowered parts that give us all kinds of correctional forces for very tall creations, but this is nice because now if something is overcorrecting, we could fix it. And then they made some other improvements and bug fixes. They also do want to thank all of us, which is nice, and they want to say that they are continuing working on updates well into 2026. That is coming as huge, awesome news from the developers. So I know I speak for most of us when we say we really appreciate developers for the effort you guys are putting into this game. Effort, support, love, all that good stuff, and we are enjoying it very much in the game itself. So down here, what we got the Search and Destroy DLC, new large machine gun ammo boxes, 400 round capacity, new velocity pivots with fluid and torque transmission. They've added the force skill to keels, and then they did rework some things for the Search and Destroy, modified firing logic to allow more guns to fire at the same time. That's awesome. Dedicated server console output updated to better explain port forwarding, another thing related to port forwarding, and then some fixes that you could take a look. But this last fix was quite interesting. Space DLC, rocket fins no longer apply aerodynamic forces in space, so that's really cool to have that happening, because obviously in space we're in a vacuum and you're not going to be experiencing that. So what does this look like in the game? First, we are going to look at the new ammo boxes. So previously you could see we got these small guys here. On the front end, you'd actually spawn it like this, funny enough, but what you're really interested in is on the side that has this blue part. So you just have to rotate it until you get that blue part. And likewise for the new 200 mag or 200 round ammo box, you can see you spawn it kind of face down, but if you rotate it around properly, you actually see that. Now, it's not the wrong way around, because when you are mounting it on a weapon, you got to find that same slot, and then you come here and just make sure it is aligned. So in this example here, we have our small ammo box, or the stock one, the original one. So you just have to rotate until you get that blue circle. In the new one, same idea like I just did here. And as we know, all of these ammo boxes, when you first select them, spawn them, they come unloaded. And of course, by going through here, we get kinetic, armor piercing, incendiary. So exact same thing with the new one. Unloaded, then kinetic, armor piercing, and incendiary. So same idea there. I'm just going to go ahead and leave this loaded. We're going to put kinetic here, and we'll keep this one unloaded. Now, how does it look in the game? Well, let me tell you, it looks awesome. So this is our ammo crate, if you will, and we could pick it up. We could hold it, we can install it here, and we can fire. So that doesn't really change that much. Obviously we have the ability to fire, same thing with this small ammo box. But what's neat is that this large ammo box has to go in the small crate. You cannot, for example, grab one of the small ones and say put it in this slot for the 400 round. So this one is 100 round, and you could see this takes up 4 times more, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 slots, and it has 4 times more the ammo. So this is useful for all kinds of applications, including helicopters and stuff where you don't have access readily available to the ammo, right? You just load it up and you could shoot. But yeah, as expected, you cannot interchange them. And what's really cool is there is a new animation. If you look at my character here holding this small box, and then if I put that one down and pick up the large ammo box, it's physically larger in my hands, like much, much larger for holding. It looks like I'm holding a PC or like a mini fridge or something, but I like that. I like anytime we get new animations in the game, and that just opens the door for more things. I know I've been saying this for a long time, even since before the fishing update came out. I would love to be able to store fish in a fridge. So the same way here, this one has 375 bullets left. Wouldn't it be nice if we actually had a mini cooler like this that I could store, say, 10 fish in, and then put it into like a cooler housing and take this same fridge to the place to sell fish and stuff? So it just make small scale fishing a little easier than loading up my inventory here with fish. But anyway, as far as the ammo is concerned, great addition to the game. It allows us to put much more larger rounds and house them in weapons. Diving into the pivots, you'll take a look at the array of pivots we have now. That is awesome. We have 10 pivots to choose from. Previously, if I recall, we just had the compact robotic, we had compact velocity, we had the pivot or hinge piece, we had these two larger robotic pivots, and we had the one velocity. Well, now they've added compact or a large velocity pivot fluid and a large velocity pivot power. So these are awesome, and they're awesome in ways that I'm sure you can understand if you know how to use the pivots. But pretty much what it gives us is the ability to put down both velocity and RPS, or put both velocity and RPS through the system. In both these cases, the orange being the RPS, the blue being the fluid, and put it down at a higher power. That's kind of the big thing. If you take a look at our previous robotic pivots, we were limited by 200 motor power, whereas the velocity was 1,000. So now we have the ability to have 1,000 out of these. And what's really nice is because these large ones actually give us the current rotation number, using a quite simple microcontroller, we can transform these velocity pivots into robotic pivots, where I set a set value, like how here you'd be able to set 1 and have it rotate. Well, you could do the same thing with these, and in fact advantageous, not only the more power aspect, but the fact that if you don't want it to just, like previously, robotic would give us, like if you had your piece aimed here, you can rotate it, swing it out, and it'll go in the negative direction to here, or it'll go in the positive direction to here. Well, now you could do a full loop. You could do all kinds of stuff. So these are advantageous for multiple reasons that I won't dig into in this video, but love to see it. And just a small other shout out to this compact velocity or compact pivot power is so nice to see, because this is one of those things where we just previously were sort of stuck, and now we have these three. Now it says the small pivot that can rotate freely about its axis. So it just allows free rigid or free unrigid movement spinning around it. There's only the RPS going through it. There is no other rotation target. There's no electricity force. So if you're ever in the need for just a pivot to just freely spin around, use this little guy here. And last but not least, we got our keels. We got our small keel, which we discussed in many other videos, our medium keel, and we got this large. So between these three different keels, all of them now have the ability to adjust the keel force. Now, I don't think the keel force is actually adjusting the weight, right? The weight is going to stay the same. But what it adjusts is these, like, call it phantom forces that it applies in keeping our boats stable. So as an example here, you could see this is one of my sailboats, and this has the keel as it was previously with the full 100% force. Now, if I go in and say let's put a couple more examples. First one, let's set it down to like 10, because we know what happens if you remove the keel. If you remove the keel, it's going to flop over because ultimately it's top heavy because of all this stuff. So we have 10%, 50%, and 100% in the back. So when I set them down right now, they all seem to be doing okay. If I turn on the wind force, let's see if we get one of them tipping over. That front one does seem to be a little more affected. The back one seems to be most stable, which is sort of as we would have expected it. Now if we jump in to this front one, which is using the 10% keel, does that mean we fall over? Or does that just mean that it's going to allow the boat to list a little heavier? I know that there are techniques in sailing. I'm not claiming to be a sailing expert by any means. But what I will say is that it allows the tilt to happen a bit more, but my oh my. It also allows much faster speed. Now I'm obviously flying with the wind here, but what you will note is that right away, having that 10% actually allows the boat to not be as grounded in the water. So you can see even on high gear here, we're kicking at around 40 knots. I mean, without this high gear, our RPSs were higher, but call it 40. Whereas if we try that for this one here, which is the one with the 50% keel power, let's see what happens. So we had 40 knots, and again, I'm using my engines. They are powerful engines. I'm not denying that portion of the work, but what I'm saying is that we were also lifting up out of the water, so it wasn't as well grounded. Okay, 23 knots, rising, 24. So if we engage our sails on this 50% keel version, let's see what happens. So I've turned off my engine power pretty much altogether. I'm moving my forward jib sail there. I don't want to be moving that. I want to use my mainsail here to pick up some of the wind and see how it pushes me. Obviously, as we know, these there's a lot of technique with sailboats. I'm not denying any of that. I'm just going to say that with the lesser keel, it seems there's a less force in planting us in the ground, or into the water, if you will. So we have a little bit more wiggle room as it comes to actually maneuvering this without it sort of pushing us in. But you can see the sails in this configuration, and it's such a small boat. And for a proper one-to-one comparison, let's just try out the one with 100% keel. So we had around 40 knots on the first one, 26-ish knots, call it, in the second one, 50%, and now we're at 100% keel force. So if I do, when I pull W, it turns green here. It actually consumes battery power, but it gives us a little bit more speed. So here we are at 20 knots. So what's the conclusion? Well, obviously having the keel at a higher force weighs you down physically more into the water. It pushes you more in, keeping the boat more upright for sure, also slowing down that top speed. I mean, here we are at 24.5 knots, so maybe that 50% keel wasn't as good as I thought. But anyway, need some more playing around. You can imagine kind of the different scenarios that these different keels would weigh in on your ship. Now I'm curious, like, what if I do 25%? The question comes down to what will happen in the case of having high winds. Will it tip us over because the keel strength is less? I set this boat now to 1% keel. So what does a 1% keel look like? Forget even 10. This is a keel adding weight to the bottom, but it's not acting that like phantom force pushing us down. So now you can see we're pretty much a speedboat, hitting upwards of 40 knots. It is tilting up and down. I know my front stabilizer there is having a bit of a tough time. So with that same 1% keel, look at what's happening. It's barely acting as a keel, barely holding us in the water, and rather the sail is just purely pushing this. So I would say that you definitely don't want 1% keel if you want a proper sailboat. Look at that. So for that purpose, it may as well not even have the keel. It's really not functional as a sailboat in this case. Now obviously, yes, you probably could put more weight on the bottom or whatever other things, but for a sailboat that perfectly worked before putting the 1% keel, this is now unusable. So there we have it, the newest update giving us new pivots, new ammo cases, and updated keels that actually allow us to set the strength. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, please give a comment, a like, subscribe, whatever. I appreciate all that. And I do want to give a huge shout out to all of my supporters. These guys go above and beyond in giving me the support, and for that I reward them and treat them to all kinds of creations, pre-released videos, stuff like that. So I do appreciate their selflessness for that, and for just really pushing and encouraging me to strive in making these videos and creations and stuff. So thank you all for watching. I do appreciate each and every one of you, and until next time, happy Stormworksing everyone.